AuthorSpeak with Vishwesh. We read their work, we are immersed in the worlds that they create, and we are mesmerized by their words. But do we really know the person behind the writing? Do we know what drives them, what infuriates them? Do we know what they love, what they read, how they write? AuthorSpeak with Vishwesh delves into the minds behind the magic, the person behind the words. Produced by Ahmedabad Book Club and Karma Foundation and conceptualized by Nikita Shah, this series brings to you your favorite authors and helps everyone get to know them better. Let me introduce our first author for the AuthorSpeak series. She is a management professional with more than 30 years of experience in the corporate sector. Her first book, Oh My Son, a collection of ancient Indian short stories from the Puranas, was the result of extensive research and an even more extensive imagination. Her forthcoming book is a translation of the Vishnu Puran. I am delighted to present Ms. Seema Saxena.
Thank you, Vishwesh, for such an accurate and brief and wonderful description and introduction to me. I'm so happy.
I'm so glad to have you here. I'm delighted that you're the first author we have to kick off our AuthorSpeak series because you write in mythological fiction, and since I was a child, that's been my favorite genre of Indian literature.
It's got the same feeling here, the mutual thing happening here. I'm also very excited that you all selected me, and I'm thankful to the Ahmedabad Book Club and Karma Foundation.
It wouldn't have been possible it was their idea and it would have been possible without them.
Sure, great. I think we thank Nikita as well for this.
So Seema, what was it that inspired you to write?
So partly you'll have the cliched answer that since I was a child, I enjoyed writing and all. And not that I just had it as a wishful thinking, I actually used to get published as a kid in the Indian Express and Times of India, Ahmedabad editions.
That's great.
Yeah, but then you know how it is, you get into this work life and then you forget about all the things that you were passionate about. So for 30 good years, everything got left behind.
Right.
But then, I had a strange scenario where I was forced to reconsider my second innings.
Right.
And I had to reinvent myself, and then I said, okay, I used to do this as a kid, so let me give it an outlet, let me work on it, because I've never really written. I always enjoyed writing.
That's great.
Yeah, and I kept it up with freelance journalism because I was in the world of business and manufacturing. I mean, as a professional, as an HR professional. So I would write for Business World and things of that kind. But like full-time writing I took up after I sort of had an abrupt end to my career in 2012. That's when I started writing.
So you said that you used to write a lot as a kid also. So what sort of stuff would you write? Was that mythology as well?
Not actually. I would write what teachers made me write. All of us have been to schools where you had essay writing. But the difference was I loved it. It was my favorite subject, and I would score very well. And I would pour my heart out, and in fact I remember writing, once they told us to write a prayer in the exam, and I remember pouring my heart out to God, and I got 10 out of 10, and those nuns must have really freaked out on my reply. But in short, I enjoyed essays. And gradually what would happen, like one guy said, here's an essay competition, I'm sponsoring it, so write about it. So then I would participate and I would win it. So one small win. Then there was another essay on pen friendship. Our times we had no digital. It was not digital era. We would write letters. So there was this thing called pen pals. It's a thing of the bygone days, but it's a wonderful thing where you had friends in other countries. So then there's a pen friendship association. So they had a contest, and then I won that contest, and that told me, hello, like I seem to be writing. So that's how it started.
I see. So then how did the transition come? What made you choose mythology as something that you really wanted to write seriously about?
So back to childhood, I think I would like to give credit to all the Amar Chitra Kathas. Yeah, because that's your foundation and your routine.
They're evergreen.
All Indian kids, I would say. So that's the starting point, and it stayed with me. Then as you move on, I found that I'm very fond of the past. I like history. I'm very, very keen to know what was India like in those days and where are we today. I mean, the whole transitioning from the past till today is what I like to be in, especially our ancient knowledge. So my reading in the growing years included all our scriptures, but I had never found the time to read the Puranas or the Purans, as I like to pronounce. So then that's it. I mean, you read the Veds and you read this and that and all, but all the English translations. But then I think it was in my wish list to someday read all of these very properly and
Right.
thoroughly. So then when in 2012 I was like, groping for my real calling,
Right.
I said, chalo, now is the time, sit down and let's start with the Purans, because the other scriptures I had read quite a bit.
Right.
And I wasn't keen on starting off with the Mahabharata and Gita, because that was also done and dusted with.
Yeah.
The Purans is what I had not,
Right.
I didn't have a grasp on it. So I wanted to start that, and that's
I
where I
see.
started.
And like now in recent years, the mythological fiction genre is sweeping Indian publishing.
Yeah.
There's been a huge resurgence in people writing about mythology.
Yeah.
So why do you think that has happened? Why do you think that mythology is relevant today? Because so many, as you shared earlier, that stories about the Gita, stories about the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, those have been written time and time again. Every other author has written something or the other related to that, and yet somehow people read it, people like it, people enjoy it. What makes these tales evergreen? What happens that these stories to the public remain interesting, remain fresh?
Right. I think the innate Indianness about it is what people relate to, firstly. Secondly, I would say that today's sci-fi and all these things are so popular with the younger generation. There's a fair amount of that, quite a bit, by way of often repeated passages in all these scriptures.
Right.
So there's this element of the
supernatural,
mystique and supernatural around
right,
it.
Right.
So, and also, can you imagine things like Abhimanyu with the wheel and all those the imaginations, the imaginations,
right.
The heroic moments. Also, the tryst with the need to win, or the need to come out of a problem, or the hardships. So when there is Vanvas, it's all about hardships. I think an average Indian relates very well to that also. And then at the end of the day, we are a country where we value any knowledge.
Right.
And all these are replete with Guru Shishya. And so it's a nice kings and queens. So it's like in the Western world, the fairies, but for us it's our kings, queens, maharshis.
Right.
And also we've always had grandparents who from generation to generation have made sure we pass on this information. So today's mom would not hesitate if she's in a bookstall to buy one of these books for her kid. So that is what
to
makes
ensure
them
the cultural consanguinity.
But I must here add my 2 bits of whatever it's worth. But I feel we Indians tend to just, when we say mythology, we just talk and stop around Mahabharata and Ramayana. There's much more. Acha, then there'll be some super erudite people who will then just stop short of the Vedas. Okay, now the Upanishads, fine, but there is a world called the Purans, and that's where the real masala is. So I would invite all Indian kids to start reading the Purans. It's a wonderful world there. It's like jaw-dropping stuff in the Purans.
I must get started with the Purans myself.
I must urge all children.
Definitely.
And then read it and then tell me which one made sense, this or the Harry Potter. Seriously, I would like to say that. But it's an unknown thing. Children don't know it. They come in Sanskrit, they come in vernacular languages. So it's difficult for people to read. There are very few people who will read it for them. So that's what my first book was about, because I started by reading. I had no idea to write. I had a wish that I should be a published author. That I would end up writing from the Purans, I had not imagined. And I only was reading and I said, let's see if I can do a PhD in this. And so I read serious reading, like 18 hours reading a day. And I've gone back and forth the Purans properly. And then I realized, oh my God, like this deserves to be written. That's when I saw that, goodness gracious, there's so much here, people need to read about it. And the beauty is that we know this story, that story, like everyone will know, okay, Parshuram, what happened. Then people will know Mahabharata, those 5 brothers and the 100 brothers, and they know all that. But let's say, do you know 2 generations before? Do you know what happened? How they are connected? Which generation? Which genealogy? So then you realize you have a different take on the whole story. So instead of writing too much about Mahabharata, in this particular collection of short stories, I've written a chapter on the making of the Mahabharata. Like what went into, what were those things which led to a scenario where you ended up with a Mahabharata. So
That's amazing.
Yeah. Somehow I feel contexts, backgrounds are very important.
Yeah, they're very fascinating as well.
Absolutely.
And
So I
especially
think-
because so many people know about these stories,
Yeah.
to know the stuff around these stories
Yes.
is very interesting as well.
Yes, and reading the Purans is a little tough in the sense that one story is scattered over 14, 15 books.
Yeah,
So to get a running thread is tough.
right,
That's I guess one reason why kids and adults don't read it much.
right.
Because they come like this and then you read and then you go to another Puran and
Yeah,
so-
convenience is king.
yeah, maybe. The pizza days, why not?
Yeah. So, what was your journey of writing like? How did you get from that spark of an idea, the initial premise that you wanted to do something with the Purans, to the completed manuscript that is now available in bookstores?
So the journey was full of joy and excitement.
Yeah.
And then once I decided to write a book, that was also a lot of fun.
Right.
Only when I decided to get it published is when all the disappointment
Right.
came in. Otherwise, it was great fun. So I started by reading the Vishnu Puran first.
Right.
And these are all bulky stuff, so it takes months to finish one book. By the time I finished it, I realized that this book itself is, and then I did a research and I found that except for an Englishman and one Bengali gentleman who has virtually towed the line of this Englishman, nobody has translated the Vishnu Puran.
Achha.
Yeah. And that is for the last 175 years.
Oh.
175 years and no Indian has translated the Vishnu Puran. So then I said, let's do this. So I began by translating the Vishnu Puran first. But then as I was translating, I knew one thing, that this is, a publisher will not touch it.
Right.
I was very sure. So I said, okay, I've picked up so much, so let's take, route number 2 from here.
Right.
So I stopped with the translation, pure translation, and all the fun-filled and, full of excitement and adventurous stories that were there, the anecdotes in Vishnu Puran. I started making notes from them and I traced them back to the other Purans. Because one thing about the Puran is that there'll be one story will be 5 lines
Right.
in the whole book.
Right.
Now that will be like this king did this and this happened.
Right.
Now you have to figure out the whole story about it you have to
Who is
figure
this
out.
king? Where else is this
Yeah,
king
and what
mentioned?
happened and then why this happened and so then you go around all the other 18, 14 Purans
Right, right.
and then you find the whole story.
Then you have to piece it together.
Yeah, so I thought I had 2 options, like you asked me earlier that these days people are using a lot of fantasy around the mythology and you
Yeah.
can really take liberty. So those doors were open to me, but I decided not to, in the sense I didn't want to change the basic story
Right.
the way it is captured in the Purans. I just wanted to do characterization, scenario buildings and the settings and those kind of things, maybe dialogues here and there.
Right.
So I've stayed with the Purans, but I've used imagination to create fiction around it.
Right.
And
Makes
then,
sense.
then created about 32 snippets and about 16 short stories.
Wow.
Put them together.
Right.
So then I said, okay, let's not do the translation. Let's first do a book which is a collection of short stories, so
Right.
people don't mind reading them.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, so that's what I did.
Yeah. That's
So the
great.
journey was good, very nice. I'll would want to do it all over again anytime. But then don't talk to me about getting published because that's,
Yeah.
I think, the bane
Yeah, the
of
pain of
any
all writers.
all writers.
But from what you were speaking, I can just make out the copious amounts of work that must have gone in, the humongous hours of just writing, editing, even reading, as you said,
Yeah.
of piecing together stuff from the different Purans. So how did you manage to balance your commitment to writing with your work, your day job?
Right, so
As you
I
said.
was not having a day job. As I explained, in 2012, my career had an abrupt end.
Right.
And I had to leave Bombay and come back to Ahmedabad.
Right.
So I had to really find my calling and reinvent myself. So I said, okay, this is my last and final innings. Let
Right,
me do
right.
things which I've never done before.
Right.
I've done enough of what I've done.
Yeah.
And it was, now there was a dead end. I mean, I wouldn't have made a headway the way I wanted to.
Right.
So I said, no, now it has to be something totally different.
Yeah.
So then it was, even worse than my working hours. At least when I was working, I would be back home by 10 or 10:30 on an average, have a good dinner, switch on, the late night serial and go off to sleep and have a Sunday free. Here it was 18 hours a day, literally. It was like my 10th and 12th standard and from morning till evening. I had a very supportive family. So my sister-in-law would take care of my, food and I mean like it was just like your 12th and 10th. Only get up for your bath and your food and meals and comfort breaks and then back to the table.
Right.
That's how it was done.
I think that's the drive of passion.
Yeah, and it was done regardless of what happened to me.
Yeah.
So I had a fruit, the blender, the kitchen blender, run over my finger with 16 stitches. And that I was back home by 4ish. And at 6 I sat down, I said this finger should not jam. And I was very scared, laptop will it work? And I made sure, even in that for about 7 days, my daily target was 18 hours, but with that finger, because I had to write like this instead of like this. So I think I did about 8-9 hours with that finger also.
That's
but I
incredible.
did it, I had to.
That's great dedication.
Yeah, it was solid one. And I knew if I work this hard, and I heard all stories like how, you'll never get published and you'll always remain hunting, in the hunting mode for a publisher. But I knew one day it will come through. That courage I got. And it did. After about 60 rejections, it finally came through.
Wow.
55, 60, I don't remember.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you have like a haven of writing? Do you have this one place where you go to where all the words come out, where inspiration strikes you?
No, I just need to be with my laptop. If there's no laptop, I can't write.
Right.
Yeah, and this is old habit I inculcated when I was with a consulting company, where you had no secretaries and you were doing your own report on the laptop. So like 240 pages typing on your own, and
Right.
that's where it came. Where you don't use paper at all.
Right.
Like this, all what I write, I don't use paper.
No, so like, but do you have a place?
Has to be my table and chair and my laptop. These three things. That's it.
So
without
nothing,
these, I
doesn't
can't
like a
write.
muse or anything. So
No. I don't need to go and sit under a tree or in a park or take a break or go to the hills. And no, I need to be
it's very efficient.
Very effective and efficient because I have to snatch moments and write now. It's very difficult to find time to write. So may as well just quickly punch in whatever you can in the laptop. I go straight on the laptop. I don't write. I don't do any outlines. Or once or twice I might kind of use a rough note or a little scrap paper here and there, but not much.
Right.
Straight on to the.
So Seema, every writer is very influenced by the books that they've read growing up, as you shared, with a love for mythology, and their style is shaped by what they read. So which authors and which books have had a lasting influence on you? What has impacted your style of writing, not just in terms of the plot, the characters, but also in and of your writing itself, the way you use description, narration? How has that impacted you?
Yeah, I think, I've read a lot of books like Rajgopalachari, when I was young. He has written very good books. They are mythological centric, and as in growing years, I was extremely taken away, like swept off my feet by Ayn Rand.
Right.
So it's been a huge collage. Plus newspaper reading, it's not just books, but there are articles which come in the newspaper and other magazines, the non-fiction type of magazines, where you pick up style. So I think it's reflecting that whole, like a collage is the word I'm using. It's reflected in, I like to write in a lucid way. I think that's probably where it shows. And I like to, use simple words rather than very jargonistic, or heavy words, as far as possible. But I do have a problem. My sentences are rather long, and a friend of mine did say that, can you not make your paragraphs smaller and those kind of things. So but I like to write simple. I mean, that's what sets me apart.
To the point.
Yeah, simple and easy to relate with. That's
So, I think we've covered a lot more even than I planned on covering. There's just one last question that I have, which is, what, in your opinion, is the most special thing about being a storyteller?
I think the most special thing about being a storyteller is a very deep cleansing effect it has on the person who's telling the story, but telling it for somebody to catch on to.
Right.
So, there's a little bit of a like out there in the universe, having told, it's like I've put hangers in the universe.
Right.
And I need people to catch on to them and probably just swing on it,
Right.
take it forward.
Right.
I mean, that's
That's a very beautiful sentiment.
Yeah, that's the sentiment behind storytelling. That
Right.
I've left it now, it's all hanging.
Yeah.
And
Up for
it's
readers
up
to
for
interpret
people
as they
to
will.
take it, and
Yeah.
it's not in my hands anymore. This is like something just lift off and taken and put into the space, and
Yeah.
then it's not yours anymore.
Yeah.
So,
That's a great sentiment.
yeah.
So, I think it's been really amazing having this conversation with you.
I
And
enjoyed it.
yeah, and before we close, there's this nice, fun, snappy rapid fire round that I
Okay.
have. So let's just go ahead with it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Favorite movie?
I like Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, that's great. I love that one too.
Yeah, it's a nice
Yeah,
one.
it's a classic.
Yeah, good one.
A book you'd like to adapt into a movie
A book into a movie.
that hasn't previously been adapted.
Okay. So, I've read an not autobiography, but a biography, sorry. I read a biography of Kasturba Gandhi.
Achha.
I think we need a movie on her.
On Kasturba Gandhi.
There's no movie
Wow.
made on Kasturba.
Yeah. In the same vein, a movie that you'd like to adapt into a book but hasn't been yet.
Okay, into a book. A movie into a book. That's a tough one. How about all our mythological series back into readable comics and books?
Right, yeah.
All our mythological.
The ones that are all on
Yeah.
all these TV series.
Yeah, back
Yeah.
into
Right, right.
what they call as these illustrated books.
Right.
Okay.
I see.
Yeah, maybe.
E-books or physical books?
Physical.
Classic.
Yeah.
And lastly, what books do you consider to be hidden gems? A book that you think is amazing but isn't very well known or isn't very critically acclaimed.
All are Purans. All
Yeah.
are Puranas or Purans, whoever likes to
Yeah.
pronounce it, whichever way. But all these ancient scriptures, and you know what, they are very readable.
Right.
Yeah, so they are available in vernaculars also.
Achha.
Yeah, so I think people should start reading them.
I
It
think
just
I need
make
to
us very
start
proud
that too.
Indians.
Yeah.
Yeah, we lack for a national pride.
Yeah, definitely.
That will help us there.
That's great. Alright, Seema, thank you for your time. It's been great speaking with you, and we've had a very enriching and fruitful conversation. And just really thank you for being here.
Thanks, Vishwesh, for calling me, and I wish you the best for your series. I enjoyed myself too.
Thank
All
you.
the best to your viewers and the readers.
Thank you for watching AuthorSpeak with Vishwesh Desai. Stay tuned for more such conversations and for meeting more authors.